My name is Paulo Gregory, and I live in Baltimore City. And I am let's see, what should we say? Let me say, I am an inventor. I find there's a song in my head everywhere I'm going. I always like catch myself, do do boo doo boo boo, just singing, doing things. So I think that plays into it. And I think the art also, the richness of the work that I do in terms of painting, drawing, and just paying attention to design. I love to play, so that's really what it's about. For me, creativity is really about combining things that aren't necessarily thought of together, and that when you bring things together that are not necessarily found in the same place, that's where something new is born. So I think that when you bring people together, you bring them together over food. When you bring music and life together, when you bring the textures and tastes and notes and sounds together, that's when you're really inventing. And I think that's what we're here to do. One of the challenges when you are creative in so many different dimensions is that the world wants to categorize you and put you in a box. And so when people say, well, what kind of music do you play? Well, I play every kind of music and I try and weave it together. People have described me as having gravitas, which is bringing truth, about being about truth. And I think that the closer you are to being real, the closer you are to being you. And I think we're taught not to be ourselves. And I really want to help bring that out in folks. I think that, I think it's all about love for me. To me, it's one planet. And so it doesn't matter where the inspiration comes from, Mexico, the Asiatic nations, Africa, Europe. I pull from all of those traditions and I'll mix them in one dish. Because to me, it's not about boundaries. It's about really making things sing. Recently got into a online article called Unsung Baltimore, which is something I'm very proud about. It's a blog, but it really talked about. I think it was the first time I've ever seen in words what I am really about, and I think Kevin really did a beautiful job in capturing that. I think what Kevin understood when he wrote that article was that he really saw this project that I'm working on. It's about creating economic development opportunities for people in communities that don't have access to using their hands to make beautiful things. And he really described that, but he also showed how this bench that we've created called the Nurture Form Community Bench in itself is what we're trying to do. It's flexible, it's giving. It not only gives in terms of when you sit in it, but it's also giving back to the community by training folks to use their hands to build this bench and eventually become owners of the company that we created around it. A lot of my inspiration actually comes from South Africa. And there's a word in South Africa which is Ubuntu. And Ubuntu doesn't have a translation in English. In South America, where in the tropics it's very hot, they didn't have a word for ice. So their translation was cold, hard water because they couldn't translate it because they had never seen ice. Ubuntu is almost like ice, I think, to Western culture. There's no word for what it means. But what Ubuntu means essentially is that we are responsible for each other's well-being, that we were put on the planet to be supportive of each other. And I don't think we've figured that out, which is why I don't think we have a word for it. But for me, that's what I've devoted my life to, is to looking around and seeing what needs to get done and putting my shoulder into getting it done. I want to heal the planet. I am about making sure that everybody in their life has the capacity to be and do what they came to be and do, and that there aren't barriers to that. So how do we get rid of all the barriers so that we can all be the full, rich, luscious, wonderful human beings that we are? And I think if we do that, the world will actually work.